Hi there, everyone. We have finally made it to our last week of Global 9 this year, and I wanted to give you guys a screencast, this time with my face embedded in it, just to make it a little more personable for our last topics. I want to start off on our distance learning schedule, week 13, with a couple of big important announcements. The first, which I also wrote in the screencast announcements, is that there is no final exam. Woohoo! So, don't thank me though. Thank coronavirus, thank distance learning. Lots of different circumstances have gone into the school making decisions like that. And thankfully, we get to just take a little bit of a light look at one last small little topic, a favorite of mine, instead of having to do any big review and final exam. So, no worries, no final exam. The other big announcement that I want to make is right here on the schedule. If anybody has any missing or late classwork that needs to be submitted to me by the end of this coming Sunday. So you have a little bit of the weekend too, but Sunday, June 14th, absolutely no exceptions. That's the last time I can take anything because soon thereafter, next week, all the teachers have to have grades in for quarter four, and final course grades in as well. So if you guys have any questions on making stuff up, where to go, you know to email me. Let's see. So the other thing I want to point out is that this week, highlighted in yellow, I have put together just a couple of sort of short crash course style summary lessons on one more topic. And this is kind of a favorite topic to me. I'm calling it Unit 8, but the topic is Mesoamerican civilizations and the European Age of Exploration. So Mesoamerican, we'll introduce in a second about what that really means, where Meso is as far as the American continents. And to piggyback off of the Renaissance and Middle Ages that we're going off of in previous units, we'll see what Europeans are doing to explore the rest of the world that they didn't have a lot of contact with and not a lot of interest in until the Renaissance came around. So on our schedule, just to let you know what all these highlights are about. The yellow highlighted information is basically your suggested schedule and your instructions for going through these very short little Edpuzzle videos. And then the blue is just more important final task type announcements. So over the next couple of days, what I recommend is that you guys work on a couple of these video assignments that I'm using Edpuzzle for. And then that will hopefully leave the last couple of days this week just to make sure that you're all caught up on any later missing work so that you're not cramming anything in too badly for that last deadline coming up on Sunday. And just to point out that these little explanations down here are basically for whatever situation you fall into. So the reason that I am giving you guys these short little Edpuzzle video assignments is one, because I didn't want to leave this topic out. We've been a little bit behind all year because I came in to fill in for Mr. Murata 2 or 3 weeks into September. And we've been playing catch up a little bit, and during the coronavirus distance learning stuff, we haven't been able to go quite as quick as we would be able to go in the classroom. So I didn't want to leave this topic out of Mesoamerican civilizations and the Age of Exploration because it's one of my favorites in world history. I think it helps you guys prepare for next year's topics and transitions pretty well also for Global 10. And I also wanted to try this new educational technology program called Edpuzzle, which basically gives you a video to watch like we would in class, or like I have been, voicing over on some of the prior screencasts. It gives you a video to watch, but it embeds questions and little notes and a couple of small links to like a slide that explains things right in the video. It stops, you answer a question, or you read a little bit of a note to explain what you just saw. you submit and you continue on to the next part of the video. So they won't take very long, but I wanted to make sure I went over that topic with you guys. One thing I do want to point out, though, is that the first bullet here, if you are behind on any previous units assignments, like big stuff, if you're still missing a unit packet or two, or if you got an email from me a few weeks ago, giving you a little bit of a 2-week warning, and you're doing your best to work real hard and catch up to make sure you pass the quarter and pass the course, this Unit 8 stuff is not all that important for you. Focus on completing that old work first. That should be your priority. If you have time to do a little bit of these, great. If not, it's not going to make or break you passing the course. But for everyone else that is all caught up, this is a nice little introduction to, well, more than an introduction, it's a summary of these topics, and it will only help you get ready for next year's Global 10 topics, and it's real interesting stuff in my opinion. So I hope you enjoy it, and on Friday is when the Google Classroom posts for these.
Here's something from Google.
No thanks, Google. Don't need your help. The little touchscreen Chromebook thing must have slid in the wrong spot. I'm recommending that you guys have, the Edpuzzles done by Wednesday, just to give you a few days to make sure that you have everything else handed in and that you're all set to go. But if you, finish them after this Wednesday, you complete them later in the week, perfectly fine. It's not going to make anything, less credited or any problems like that. Just giving you guys a little recommended suggestion. So guys, that is the week. 2 or 3 days of just some quick summary lessons on one last topic, then a couple days to finish off the week and hopefully get everything cleared and squared away for our class before you go into the weekend. But remember, 6/14, Sunday, no exceptions. Any and all work has to be in by then. I need to get grades in soon after that. Okay, what I want to do is just give you guys a little instruction on an introduction to this topic. And before I kind of jump into just a couple of slides that I have, I wanted to point out that I gave you guys a very specific order in which I want you to do the topics for these Edpuzzle video lessons. I'm not sure exactly how they're going to pop up in what order on our stream, but there are 4 videos. Some of them are, I think, like under 10 minutes. There's a couple that might be more like 15 minutes, but they have those questions and notes embedded right in them. So it won't take you more than 20 or 30 minutes, a piece at the very most to do those. And it should be nice and easy because the questions and everything are embedded right into the video. You don't have to bounce around. But I want to make sure that you guys do them in order so that the topics flow and make sense. So on our announcement on Classroom, this is the order I want you to follow. First, do the Mesoamerica pre-Columbus. That's the title of the video. Second, the history summarized. These go over the 3 Mesoamerican civilizations, the Maya, Aztec, and my favorite, the Inca. And third, then we're going to jump into the last 2 of European exploration. Third, you start with the origins of European exploration. And then fourth, lastly, 5 important European explorers. So follow that order and things will make perfect sense. And here we have just a quick little slide introduction to give you guys some context on where this topic fits in and how it kind of segues from what we were learning about before. Okay. All right, so this quick little crash course I'm calling Unit 8 is titled Mesoamerican Civilizations in the Age of Exploration. In past times that I've taught Global 9, I've done the Age of Exploration in a different part of the timeline as far as what unit I cover it in. But one thing I found out is that these 2 topics go together very nicely. And I'll explain a little bit about how that works in the next few moments here. All right, so I'm going to start off with actually the second topic that I want you to look at in the Ed puzzle sequence. But think about the topic that we just did on our last unit, Unit 7, which was called Renaissance and the Reformation. So remember, the Renaissance is this, couple of centuries where the Middle Ages are starting to end. People in Europe, especially the educated and the business traders, are coming out of the Dark Ages. They're starting to prosper a little bit more, starting to become a little more wealthy. And a lot of that is because of trade. But they're also a little more educated in the culture and the knowledge of the old Greek and Romans from classical times. So that is kind of spurring this, energy of rebirth, of, not just going through life, going through the motions all the time, but Europeans start to get interested in what else is out there. Away from the manor, away from the Middle Ages. What else is out there as far as places and countries that they can trade with? What else is out there in terms of knowledge and what can I as an individual person do to rise to my abilities as a human being? We saw like Leonardo da Vinci gets involved in all kinds of different areas. He's a scientist, he's a drawer, he's an engineer, he's a scholar, a painter. He's multi-talented. So people like that are exploring the knowledge of ancient Greece and Rome, but they're also exploring and bringing out the ability and the knowledge within themselves too. So during this time of the later part of the Middle Ages, right as all this Renaissance rebirth of knowledge and culture is happening, the Europeans, as far as trade, are trying to get all of that really tasty, spicy, types of foods and spices to make their, like bland English fish and chips a little bit more tasty and nice to the palate. So what we kind of have on the map here is Europe is right here. And these Europeans are trying to trade for lots of different stuff, but especially spices, with the Far East, with places like China and India, and even people in the Middle East. But normally, you would go through the land routes, through the Silk Road routes, or take a ship here, get off, take another ship through the Indian Ocean, and go over to India or China. So the problem with that is that that's a really long journey, and going through all these other civilizations, it can become pretty expensive. You have to pay for lodgings, you have to pay for people in caravans and ships to get you all the way there. If you're trading things along the way, those areas, those other civilizations and nations are going to tax you, kind of like going on the thruway, you pay a toll, all kinds of different things that make that a little more of a complicated, long journey. So why not just cut out the middleman and get there quickly is what they're trying to do. So in the age of exploration, Europeans are exploring new routes to Asia. They're trying to find out, is there a more direct way that we can simply just maybe go around Africa and reach India and China completely by sea? A little bit longer sea route, but on a ship it could go faster than on land. So as Europeans are exploring new routes to Asia, they're going to discover a new world in the process. And one of the explorers that we're going to look at that becomes very famous for quote unquote discovering America is Christopher Columbus. We'll also look at four other very famous European explorers that are important for other ways that they impacted the European civilizations and other ways they impacted the world. So in the process, Christopher Columbus, quote unquote, discovers this new world, the Americas. And the reason why we say discover is that there were already people there. He only really, discovered it for Europe and for the Eastern Hemisphere. But this is where we're going to start our Crash Course Unit 8, is with these Mesoamerican civilizations that were already in North and South America. Now we call this Mesoamerica, kind of like Mesopotamia was the two rivers in the early civilization of the Middle East here. civilization was in between these two rivers. Meso, between, Potamia, rivers. So Mesoamerica is that same kind of word suffix meaning in between the Americas. The civilizations we're going to look at are the Maya, Aztecs, and Incas. And this is kind of in like modern day Central America, where you'd see like places like Guatemala and southern Mexico. And the Incas are technically not in Mesoamerica, but we're going to call them Mesoamerican for this unit. They are in South America in the Andes Mountains, like the modern day countries of Peru and Chile. So this is where we're going to start on our Edpuzzle videos with Mesoamerican civilizations. But one thing I want to point out and mention about them, the reason I'm showing you this map with all these old river valley civilizations that we started the year learning about, the Indus Valley in India, the Nile Valley civilization in Egypt, Mesopotamia, and the Huanghe River region, Yellow River in China. All of these civilizations are considered like early civilizations as far as their technology, their agriculture, what they were developing as far as their society. And we're learning about these Mesoamerican civilizations now, after all the other stuff that we've learned about down the timeline, because Europeans, from their perspective, they are learning of these people and encountering them around the 1400s. Of course, 1492 is when Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue. And it fits in with our timeline of things we've learned so far. But these civilizations in the Americas developed a little bit later on than the first river valley civilizations, although there is some evidence that a few of them do date back to very, very close to the same time as these. But they developed a little bit later because it took time for humans to migrate across to the Western Hemisphere from Africa. Remember that map that we had shown probably in the first couple weeks, where there was tons of arrows coming out of Africa showing the time that it took for people, for humans, to migrate to these new places. One migration that takes a long time is for them to go all the way over here, kind of pop out over into Alaska, down the American continents. So these civilizations over here, Mesoamerican civilizations, are really advanced for being completely kind of cut off from the rest of our Eastern Hemisphere civilization, and of course Europe, all the golden ages that we learned about. They end up having kind of their own prosperous golden age type years of their civilization. And this is really impressive and kind of astonishing to me that civilizations like this that were considered by the Europeans to be, kind of primal and savage and backwater, at first glance anyways, were really quite advanced the more the archaeologists find and we learn about them. So I want you guys to take a quick look at these three civilizations first. That's the first two Edpuzzle videos. And then I want you to learn about the European explorers and how they travel over to the New World and encounter the Mesoamericans of the Mayas, Aztecs, and Incas. Because that, I think, will make a little bit more sense to learn about who these people are, how long they've been there, what their society was like, and then learn about how the Europeans encounter them. And guys, that kind of will finish off our week. Again, there are 4 total videos. I want you to do them in this order. I would first do the Mesoamerican topic of pre-Columbus, and then History Summarized, where they go over all 3, give you a little crash course on Maya, Aztec, and Inca, and then the origins of European exploration, followed by a look at 5 important European explorers. So when you go to these posts on Classroom, there'll be a link to Edpuzzle. There's 4 posts total for 4 Edpuzzle videos. And you watch the video right on Edpuzzle. You shouldn't have to do anything to sign in or sign up. It's already your Google Classroom accounts are already linked to Edpuzzle. You're going to watch the video. Little notes will come up in the right-hand corner where a multiple choice question will come up. And there's a few things you can read over that help explain what you watched. Answer a couple multiple choice questions based on what you just saw. A few are open-ended questions where you can just write, a sentence or two about what you think, and then at the end, you submit it, and it sends it right into me on Classroom. It grades some of the multiple choice stuff for me. But that will give you a nice little, fun look into one last topic that I really enjoy, and I hope you do too. All right, guys. So before I kind of send off, I just want to let you know that during this week, of course, if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And that this year, being your teacher, popping in and filling in for Mr. Murata at that second or third week mark of September. I pretty much feel like I've been your teacher the whole year, but I hope that you've learned a little bit from me and that you've enjoyed my class at times, not all the time, of course. But I've enjoyed teaching you. I've grown a lot in my own kind of journey as an educator. I've learned a lot from you guys. And I hope that you have a great year next year in Global 10. Pay attention to your Global 10 teachers. They're awesome people that I've gotten to learn and hang out with a little bit this past week. And they will do an excellent job at preparing you for that New York State Regents that you're going to have to take at the end of next year. So enjoy your summer. I might see you a little bit at the school this week or next if you're coming in to pick up any stuff. But enjoy your summer now that we're getting into the reopening phases, according to Governor Cuomo. Now the coronavirus stuff is kind of coming to a little bit of an end. Hopefully the final end is in sight so we can all get back to our regular mobile lives and get out of our houses. But enjoy the summer, enjoy the outdoors as much as you can, and who knows, maybe I'll see you next year too. All right, have a great day, guys. Have a great week. Email me with any questions. Bye-bye.